If that looks familiar to you, then today's lesson is going to be of great help. G'day guys, my name is Danny Bird and I'm a PGA professional. In today's video, we're going to be looking at a couple of myths that we hear often about how to strike our irons well. If you're new to the channel, firstly, welcome. Secondly, don't forget to hit that subscribe button to make sure you get notified when the videos get released. Ensure that little bell has been ticked. For those of you that are returning viewers, welcome back. And I do hope that the videos you've been watching previously are helping your game improve. So one of the major myths that we tend to see with iron striking, and you often hear it, and the reason for today's video is I did a lesson last week, and this particular student had come to me having had some lessons with other coaches in the past, and they've been working on trying to increase their attack angle, and they were under the impression that they need to have a really steeper attack angle to compress their irons, and they needed to get their shaft lean really moving forward at impact. And they just ended up with that mess that we had seen in the first video there. And ultimately, yes, we do need to have some shaft lean. Yes, we do ideally want to have a downward attack angle. Those two can go hand in hand, and we can hit the ball quite well if we can match those two up, but they don't need to be excessive. So when we are looking at our attack angle, we really only want to be having the club come down around 4 to 5 degrees in an attack angle. That's really important. If we start getting too steep with our irons, especially when we get into our mid irons, if we start getting our attack angle too steep, all we're going to find is that we're going to de-loft the club, we're going to hit the ground early, and ultimately we tend to see players making compensations. We often see players backing up, trying to get back behind the golf ball, because subconsciously you're very much aware that by bringing the club down and having a really kind of steep attack angle, we de-loft that 7-iron. Well, our brain says, oh, this isn't going to work. And at the last minute, we see this kind of reorientation of the hands, the player falling back. If they don't hit the ground early, they end up thinning the golf ball. So we really don't want to be coming down overly steep, okay? One, it'll obviously bring the ball flight out too low, two, at least to poor contact. Then we're looking at the shaft lean, and it's quite funny because as I say, the two do go hand in hand. So if we think about shaft lean, so we get into our setup position, and I'm just going to move the golf ball here into the center. Okay, so we get into our setup position. Here's setup. That would be impact. So you can see there, I've maybe moved my handle half an inch to an inch forward. That's going to give us approximately 8 to 10 degrees of shaft lean, which is all we really need with our irons to hit nice, solid contact. So how are we going to go about, I suppose, ensuring and understanding the best way to create that, 4 or 5 degrees of attack angle, and having the shaft lean only around about 10 degrees? Actually a really simple visual that I'm going to give you guys, a cue that I'm going to give you guys, and then a training method that we can actually use to get better. So if we think about the way the golf swing works, okay, we have really two major moving parts that we often see as golfers, and they're probably the two that we often look at. Number one is the body, number two would be the arms. So the function of the arms are that of a kind of lifting motion, okay? So our arms are going to help us lift the object, okay? Got the golf club here, my arms are going to help lift it. The body's role and responsibility is to turn, okay? So we have a turning and a lifting motion. Now, the simplest way to visualize how the downswing will look is through a very easy and simple method. So what I'm going to ask you guys to do, if you have a club nearby, that would be amazing. I'm going to get you to grab a golf club for me right now. We're then going to get ourselves set up into our golf posture here. So what I'm going to ask you guys to do is we've got the right hand on the handle here, and very simply we're going to hold the club out in front of us, place our left hand behind our back, and we're going to create a bend in the elbow here of about 90 degrees. Okay, so you get a 90-degree angle here, and you'll see here my wrist is holding the club up in the air, but we're going to allow that wrist to relax. Okay, so then we get almost like a nice little box shape here. If I was to look, I've got my little box shape. And then from here, simply, that's the roll of the hands, okay? So the arms have lifted the club up. And then from here, we would then turn the body. And then if I add side tilt, pretty much into golf posture here. The next part, in order to create the appropriate amount of attack angle and the appropriate shaft lean, is quite simple. From that position here, we're going to get this right elbow here to pull down. So again, the arms are a lifting motion, well therefore they're also a pulling down motion. So we're going to pull down, and I'm going to allow my right wrist to release the club. And now as I go from here, I've gone elbow down, release the club, arms are lowering, and essentially here we have impact. Now as we look at it from front on, as I rotate my body through, put both hands on the club, you'll see here that my hands are forward of where the golf ball would be, so I have created that compression. You'll also notice that the attack angle is not as steep, and the reason why it's not as steep is we are allowing the club to shallow the attack angle on the way down, okay? When we try to hold on to this angle, and this is where we see that misconception and we see the myth almost, players trying to maintain their lag and going to hold those angles. We hold this angle too long, keep the wrists locked in far too late into the swing, and then we have a last minute either throw down of the club, well, that gets us hitting the ground early, or as you can see in that first shot that I hit, kind of hold the angle too much, far too long, and then we have my 7-iron that comes out almost like I'm hitting a 1-iron. And if you guys have ever had that happen to you, you'll know how frustrating that can be. So it's all very well us now having the understanding. So, you know, we've gone through what was the concern at the start. We've now had a look at what the correction is. But how do we go about implementing the change? Now, this here is essentially how are we going to train. Now, it's a real simple way to do this. What I ask of players is you're going to get yourself into your setup position. Okay, we're going to make, for each shot that before we hit a shot, we're going to get ourselves set up, create that angle, create the turn, ensure we get ourselves into side tilt. I then want you to lower the club down, release, and turn. So then when we get over to the golf ball here, what we're trying to do essentially is feel like we're going to throw the club down through the hitting area. So that right elbow comes down first. Right elbow first, throwing, and then work our way through. Now, ideally we would, when we're training, put the golf ball onto a tee just to give us some assistance. And then what I'd ask you to do is we're going to do one dummy drill, like I've explained a moment ago. So lowering, releasing, checking where we get through to impact. Then we would set ourselves up over a golf ball on the tee. Swing to the top. Want to lower, release, and then rotate through. As you can see there, we're not trying to hit full shots, full speeds. What I would ask of you guys is that in your training, we would simply blend one motion where we're working without hitting the golf ball. So we're getting to the top, understanding the importance of the right elbow, getting this angle, releasing of the wrist, and then the turning of the body. We would do one of those before each shot. We might then hit 2 or 3 shots off of the tee, just going at that same motion, that same half pace, pausing, get used to turning the body through. And we would then incorporate one full swing where we try to do the swing motions at a full speed, just to see how we're going and if we're getting close to it. So then we get ourselves into setup position. You can see there, turned it over a little bit, but realistically working on getting that release, working on getting the elbow into the correct spot, understanding the role of the arms and the body. I'd be pretty happy with the strike overall. So a simple yet very, very effective training session there. And honestly, the student themselves was quite blown away by how simple it is to create the appropriate amount of shaft lean and therefore create the compression, and then understanding that they didn't have to have such a steep angle of attack to actually strike the golf ball well. Now, throughout that lesson, they raised a really good point, and it was noted pretty quickly that as they were getting to the top, they weren't moving the elbow down, they weren't pulling the arms down first. They were trying to work on this release. Now, it's great to note for you guys watching this video that we really must enforce that right elbow to be working down first. So that's why it's so important that we go through the stages in such a deliberate way. And as soon as the player understood that this to begin with, that was a horrible casting motion, because then from here, as the arm extends down, they've lost the angle in the wrist. They've actually ended up hitting way behind the golf ball, and they were hitting some pretty poor shots as a result of it. So whilst I don't mind seeing poor shots, because then that highlights the issue at hand, the quicker we understand why, the quicker we're able to make the outcome that much better. And for this particular student, it was very, very quick. Understanding that we do not want to be throwing the wrists early. It's lower the elbow, release the angle, rotate through. We're going to get a shallower attack angle. We're going to get the appropriate amount of shaft lean, and you are going to see your ball flight pick up, your ball speed increase, your overall shot outcome improve. Guys, as always, I do appreciate you taking the time to watch today's video, and I do hope you found it helpful. Remember, if you have found it helpful and you might know someone that needs some help, please feel free to share the video with your friends. Do not forget to subscribe, and when you subscribe, make sure you click the little bell to ensure that you're getting your notifications for when the videos get released each and every week. And above all else, if you'd like to leave a comment, please feel free to do so. As you see in all my previous videos, I get back to as many comments as I can, and it can be about today's video, it might be about previous videos, or it could just be a general golf question. If I can help you, I absolutely will try my best to do so. And until next time, guys, happy golfing.